What's going on, guys, and welcome back to daily vlog number 2. I'll be right back because I got my first client now. Cue the music. Alright guys, welcome back. A couple of hours have elapsed. I'm heading out of my apartment now. We're getting ready to go back to One Life Fitness and get a workout in with Will. He's one of our trainers over there. So I'll bring you guys along for that workout. Let's get that done, and then I'll go ahead and complete my my powerlifting program, which is only going to be about 4 exercises. So see you guys in a bit inside the gym. Alright, so I'm here back at One Life inside the Ballston Quarter Mall. We're working out with Will today. So I'm going to bring you along for a quick workout. We're doing lower body today.
I've been using, there's kind of a bunch of different styles of box squats. I think that is one of the most important pieces to talk about when people see something like this.
Right.
Today, I'm using this as a depth finder. So this isn't going to be a traditional box squat. Like usually a traditional box squat is trying to keep your shin vertical and almost sitting back on the box and driving up from there, but you'd be relaxing and then driving through. That's more like the West Side barbell style. I've just been using this as more of just a depth finder to make sure I'm going at a consistent depth. This may be slightly high for me, but it's but for the first couple weeks, I wanted to make sure I just felt comfortable in getting back into a barbell back squat. So that's the reason I have it set for that. How to get my nutrition and calories was the hardest part. So getting that part set is done.
Yeah, that's been the tough part for me right now. I actually brought some meals with me today. I'm trying to you have to it's a work in progress. When you're trying to change everything and you're trying to change your schedule, it's like you gotta like hammer it in. You gotta
yeah, man. It's really
tough.
And it's like anything else. Consistency is key. So if you're not getting those meal times in properly, it's like that can throw off a lot of rhythm.
Yeah. Hey, well, so real quick, tell us about the shoes. I know a lot of people ask about squatting shoes and what shoes they should squat in.
Right.
So obviously you're wearing flat powerlifting shoes. I'm wearing mine as well.
Yeah.
Can you just explain a little more how that squats?
Benefit of these are a stable base. You want a stable base as much as possible, especially when you're lifting heavy weight. It's like the more unbalanced you are at the ankle, it's going to travel up through your knees, your hips, all the way up to the weight, and then back down. So the more stable your shoe can be, the better your surface will be, the more balanced your foot is going to feel. That translates up through the kinetic chain.
Right.
So these just have a nice flat bottom. They have an elevated heel as well. A lot of times for people in squatting, ankle mobility comes into play. If you can't do an ass to grass squat, most likely, not all the time, but most likely there's ankle stiffness involved in there. So for this, kind of elevate your heel so that ankle angle can be a little more giving for folks like ourselves, where we can sit back on our heels and still go through. So each Olympic shoe kind of has essentially like a 1 inch, 1.5 inch, maybe up to 2 inch like type of rise. So that's a nice help for us. So you can sit back on your heels in a squat and get your hips deeper in. So also that helps tremendously in doing your squat. A running shoe might be the worst thing to kind of go through. If you're going to
basically when you're wearing running shoes, you're absorbing all of the power that you're producing.
Exactly, and if you have just a round surface on the bottom, that's not exactly the most stable surface for big weight. So if you're going to squat and you have running shoes on, my advice is always just take your shoes off, just lift in your bare foot, and you're going to be as stable as possible there. These lifters will give a little bit of like a head start for ankle mobility if that's a little lacking.
So what's your goal for the working sets over here? Was that one of them?
I'm trying to build up in weight and go down in reps.
Okay.
So we're going to have essentially like a 12, 10, 8, 6, 4 type of scheme. So now I'm going to work on the 6 and then get the 4.
Okay.
About 2 minutes, maybe 2.5 in between like rest for heavy cycles. I'm not a big fan of going much longer than that. I still have aesthetic goals as well, so I'm not competing in a powerlifting meet, so I don't really need 5 minutes in between. I still want to keep my heart rate up just enough so we can actually get some aesthetic work or body fat burn from that. It's not going to be much, but it is what it is.
We are young, let's be stupid, just you, me, and the night. The one thing we should know is that we got plenty of time. That we got plenty of time. That we got plenty of time.
Feeling good today, huh?
Rack was like the hardest part.
So if people want to find you on Instagram, where can they find you at?
Find me at William P. Sorrentino. That's it.
And I'll leave it down. Over here we're going to be performing the split stance squat. Otherwise known as the rear foot elevated. Look at that pump already.
It's easy to start holding anything with dumbbells. It always happens.
I'm gonna tell the world the way it's going down. Let tomorrow be tomorrow, right here now. Won't let them bother me, I'm not gonna waste my time. Come and join and get it started in this town. I'd rather be fun than what they say won't be safe and sound. There's time for that, but not now. And while we are young, let's be stupid, just you, me, and the night. The one thing we should know is that we got plenty of time. That we got plenty of time. Yeah, we got plenty of time. We got plenty of time.
I'm gonna go right into lying leg curl.
Plenty of time. We are young and we got plenty of time. And I've got nothing else but you on my mind. We got plenty of time.
Hyperextension. Or not.
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
So I did have a question. I realized that a lot of people, when they're doing like a split stance squat, they're so worried about keeping that knee and ankle in line. However, obviously when you're performing that, you will realize that you do have somewhat of an angle there.
Yeah, there's one thing I've always kind of learned in strength and conditioning. A lot of people always try to drop words like always, never, make sure you don't do ever, any words like that. Definitive words, I think, are kind of a little misleading in a way. It's almost like if you lean forward just a little bit and have your knee come forward in a rear foot elevated split squat. A lot of people think, should you be doing that? Does it bring too much quad in? Not enough hamstring? It's kind of like there's always a benefit and essentially like a risk with any exercise. If I'm keeping myself angled forward a little bit more, it almost mimics more of what a true squat would be like, where your upper body is kind of angled forward and the weight is kind of centered over the mid portion of your foot. You can do it where you can walk your foot out a little bit more, have a straight shin, and then you're sinking down where the weight is kind of back behind your foot. That's going to bring in more of your glute and your hamstring. That's fine. You just need to know what you're pulling out of the exercise toolbox to know you can program it accordingly, but you should know what those are and which ones you can do. But I wouldn't say either one is wrong, just kind of picking which one we need. The essentials though, for both of them or any version, is to make sure when you're coming down, you don't want to see any knee valgus, which is when your knee kind of buckles in. You should make sure that knee stays out and your knee is aligned essentially with that pinky toe. So you should feel like it comes down at this angle, not at this one.
Right.
So make sure you tuck that knee out. That's your glutes responsibility to kind of make sure you keep that position. So in either one of those, your glute's going to be active. Just if you keep your foot out further, you're going to get more hamstring and glute dominant. And on that one, I wanted more of a well-rounded one today, since today is more of a squat focus and not necessarily a hip hinge. So that works for me. And I'm going to go into the hyperextension.
Yep,
We got plenty of time. We got plenty of time. Yeah, we got plenty of time.
So as you mentioned, today's not so much of a hip hinge day. So obviously you're not really hinging too much at the hip there. You're really trying to focus on that glute drive.
Yeah, it's like for me on this one, I think exactly almost your same mechanics as your typical hip hinge of like an RDL. It's like just keep a slight little bend in your knees so knees not locked out completely. That'll put more emphasis on your hamstring. When you're driving up, instead of thinking of lifting your back up from the angle, think of driving your hips into the pad, and you'll find that you automatically become a little more glute dominant on that. There's also some other variations where you can kind of tuck your chest kind of down a little bit, and then you're essentially just extending right at the glute and not getting a full kind of range of motion for your upper body per se, but it becomes more like a hip thrust. You're seeing that a lot of times, I think, on Instagram now, so things like that. Again, not necessarily wrong, just a specific way of doing things, and everything nowadays is just about glute, so that's a great way to just activate that area. But if you're looking for your upper kind of spinal stabilizers, I think kind of keeping that tight spine throughout will give you a little extra benefit there, so that can help in that regard. Alex showing us how it's done today.
What's our rep range here? Same thing?
I was doing 12. Alex showing you how to get that lying leg curl. There you go. Toes pointed up towards your shins. Think about driving your heel straight into your glute. Try to keep your hips on the pad so you're not raising up. No hyperextension from your lower back. You should be thinking about keeping your core engaged so there's no flexion or extension of your spine. It should all stay nice and smooth. There you go. So you're tall, you're definitely going to want that bigger one than me. There you go.
So we don't want to actually hyperextend.
That's right.
We want to come up to where our back is pretty much flat, right?
There you go. So think from at the very top, your ankle, your knee, your hip, your shoulders all make a nice straight line.
Right.
There you go. Good ones here.
It's always the ones that are like body weight, you feel the most.
Yeah.
Sounds like Are we keeping this back foot completely straight? Does it matter if I'm like at an angle or anything?
It's a good question. I have people that have excellent like quad and hip flexor mobility or flexibility, I should say. If you can do that, that's fine. You can still do that. Mine's terrible.
Okay.
So I feel like relaxing that foot in the back gives me the flexibility to do whatever type of split squat I want.
Okay.
There you go. There you go. Those are looking good. So I've got that foot elevated on his toes for the backside, just a different variation of it. Those who are a little more flexible with their quad kind of get away with that.
Want that knee to kind of line up nicely with the toe there.
There you go. Just think about keeping your kneecap over your pinky toe. Be a nice way to make sure you're getting that. That's good view. Alex in that work face right there. There we go. Nice.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
There we go. So the way he's got his foot set up there, he's kind of just resting the back of the foot on the pad there, really emphasizing all of the power output on that leg that's working.
That's a great way, one, to get lightheaded, two, feel like you're getting a little more of like a low back and true glute focus instead of just hamstrings and then glute, so that's a nice way. I'm actually a big fan of that for folks that have low back issues. I think that's one. When they usually need to work on strengthening glutes, low back, that's a great way to take load off of your spine and still keep that movement in. So one of my favorites for kind of finishing off some stuff.
I've actually never done this one before.
Yeah, there you go. Just think the same thing. Keep your spine as straight as possible. There you go. So it's like slow and control. Just think about bringing yourself up. There you go. You should feel a little more of like a low back pump on that. There you go.
There we go.
Good. Good, there you go. Got those. So good cues to think about lifting your thigh up as high as you can and your leg will go with it. There you go. And you'll see in this video how you straighten out like right away. Good, awesome. Good. Nice little arm pump too.
That's just the blood rushing to my head.
Yeah, right. Wait till you get up. Who needs pre-workout? Got that. Yeah. You're lucky I don't know how to zoom in. That machine where if they have like low back weakness or low back issues, you see people sitting on that low back machine and just going at it, hyperextending their back. And if you just take your spine and set it straight and just lift your legs, low back and your glutes responsibility to do that. So as long as you can essentially assess like how strong you are, maybe you want to start in this recline position, then you're up higher, and then you're kind of like going with extra weight or resistance with bands. It's a nice way to kind of add a different variation to your workout, but that's a cool one of my favorites there. And it doesn't really require much. Like it's
Right, yeah, no, it feels pretty simple. Right.
Yeah. Battle ropes out of here.
All right, so Will has got a public service announcement for everyone.
We're lucky enough at this space to have a nice long turf system in here, about almost 27, 28 yards of total turf. But we always joke around in a gym like this when you have these types of things. Essentially, it's set up for explosive performance, athletic training, athletic conditioning, that type of stuff. If you're ever in a gym and you see a long stretch of turf like this is not, I repeat, not the spot to take a mat and lay down and start doing yoga, doing your ab training, your core training, your stretching. If it's part of a group that's actually doing that, you can do that. But if you're just laying down, you're that guy. Don't be that guy in this gym. It's supposed to be used for running, jumping, explosive moves, agility, conditioning, not for laying down and stretching out. There's plenty of room elsewhere in the gym for stuff like that. So please don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. There's a lot of breath, but cues I'm looking for on this.
Okay.
Same thing as always, protect your spine. Think of staying from top of your head all the way to the base of your spine. Should be in a nice straight line. Stable, right? Act as if you're holding a plank. Holding your kettlebell in the rack position, that just means it's resting on your forearm, bicep, little off your chest, but it's supported by your entire shoulder girdle. When you're actively doing the box step up, think of getting your leg up. Same thing, you want to make sure no knee valgus. Keep your knee driven outward so your glutes strong and responsible. When you go to step up, don't think of bouncing up onto the step. Think of actively driving the box down through your foot. So if you're using a balance step where weight's on your heel of your shoe, outside here, inside here, creating a tripod effect. So it's, let me get my mouse. So here, here, here. When you're stepping on that way, you can squeeze your toes in, get that good arch for your foot, and then actively drive the box down. So that will keep your shin stable. You can drive all the way through your leg. You'll feel your glute activate as you're getting all the way up to the top. You want to feel like you're getting full hip extension. So your hip flexor and your hip is extended. Your glutes fully driven forward. You'll get the most out of your box step up that way. So that's what we're looking for on those moves.
Cool. That's good. That's a good finisher. So, does that complete our workout? So, yeah, we're all done here.
That's it. Time to get some food.
Yeah.